Guten Abend.
Hello, everybody.
Silent, no music at the beginning. And this comes for a reason, because we wanted to start with the announcement and then get into party time, right? But first of all, let me say hello to Thomas. Nice to see you again. Dave, London calling, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Nadine, nice to see you once more.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm
fine,
thank you.
Stanti, how is Sweden?
Cold?
Yeah. See it on your jacket. Okay. So you're well prepared. That's good to see. Okay, let's just get into the announcement. It's a quick one, but in my opinion, it's a special one, and in a way, it's a big one. Thomas, Dave, and me, we worked on this for quite some time now. At the background, I already said it yesterday in the OBC Discord for the members. And now I also can, of course, say it on the open channel, as the OBC shop is, of course, available for everybody. And what we have now on the OBC shop is quite something rare, because we have free shipping worldwide. There is no limit. You can order a record for 20 euros in Australia or in the USA. It's worldwide free shipping. How is that possible? Possible is that thanks to Thomas, because what you all should know and always consider, Thomas is one of the 3 largest used record dealers in the world. I think it's safe to say, when I say you sell a couple of thousand records each week, and so you have extremely good connections and conditions. And that's how it is possible here at the OBC that we can offer you a worldwide free shipment. That also means that we don't combine orders anymore. And if you order a record from Thomas, it probably will be shipped immediately. But also for those who are not so familiar with the OBC shop, what you also should consider is that if you order a record from Dave, the record from Dave has to be shipped to Thomas. Dave does that once a week. So if you order a record from Dave or a record from Thomas and a record from Dave, it takes a couple of days. But if you consider the rarity of most of those records, I think you will survive.
And also, it's free for you. So waiting a little bit more is thanks.
Yeah. No matter if with or without shipping, you have to wait a little, because Dave has to send the copy. So I think that makes, at least in my case, it would make some decisions for me way easier if I wouldn't have those frigging shipping costs, because I think the shipping is sometimes the most annoying part of collecting records online.
Yeah. There's records I bought like over 5 years ago. I'm still waiting for shipping, and I'm still happy about it.
But you don't have the record yet.
Yeah, but I will if I don't die.
Yeah.
And also, one thing is that people not getting confused. I think at the moment at the OBC website, there is still written plus shipping, but don't get confused with it. It's from this morning onward, free shipping.
Yeah, and this with shipping is somewhere hidden in the code. We have to find it, but if you order, you will see there will be no shipping fees. Okay, that was it with the announcement. I hope you take advantage of it and you like it. And now I would say, Thomas, Dave, Nadine, Stanti, what are we up to today?
Today we will go way back and to 1984 to hear some of the first house tracks from Chicago.
Nice.
And then we'll go into a UK label called Warp Records and go through some of their best releases and what Warp Records is about.
Nice. Dave, are you familiar with House and Warp a little bit?
No, don't know anything about it. I'll hand it all over to you, yeah? Now listen, me and house music, we go back to the start. And I'll tell you why. You know, I was into this scene in the early 90s when it was happening in London, sort of from about probably 92 to 92, 93, 94, 95. And that period was amazing. And I got obsessed with that type of music. And I started to buy lots. I mean, I was, you know, you've got to remember Discogs. Yeah, I know Discogs over there somewhere. They started off, you know, as a dance music database. And I was there in 2002, you know, and me and my friends, before that, we were on a thing called the 313 mailing list, which was an email list to do with Detroit techno. And all these, you know, over here, there's people that are fanatical about that music, of which I was one of. So, yeah, roll on. This is going to be a wicked little session we got going on here. Yeah.
Thomas, will you play some music for us? A song I really, really love.
Yeah, I could start from 1984, or we could start with a song you really love.
You decide. Hey, who am I? You decide.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be better to start from where house music started up? In my opinion.
Of course.
Yeah.
Go.
There's never like only one song. There's always.
So you're going to play On and On? Yeah.
So Santi was aware of this song. Another big fan. Dave, are you familiar and aware of this song too?
Yeah, I am. I know the 12. I know the 12-inch. It's like an early. I can see Thomas there pulling out loads of Chicago Tracks records, and I'll show one quick that I quickly pulled out, which is a little bit later than this. This is really right at the start of the Chicago house scene. You know, right at the beginning. But there's another one that I'm personally a big fan of, which I quickly pulled out the shelf here, which is Sleazy D, I've Lost Control, from 1986. Now, and this is a great 12-inch. And I consider this to be the first proper acid house 12-inch, this one. There's a lot of debate about what the first acid house 12-inch is, but that for me is the one. And it's
so that is, in your opinion, the very first one, or
yeah, it's only 2 years after that track that Thomas has just been playing. So, you know, but Chicago Tracks were such a prolific label. The thing is, some of their pressings were, you know, they used to overpress old records. They used to get old records and overpress. And I've got some examples where you can hear like the groove collision. You can hear some other music coming through. It's crazy thing.
So let's listen a little bit more to the music, or is it too? Yeah, here we go. What is Santi doing over there? Any idea?
I know what Santi's doing. He's trying to dig out loads of his old records. He's good at. I can see his face. He's got
first,
in his eye.
I want to show the very first acid or house album, because it's This is a music that is made usually for singles, for EPs. But if you are only into albums, that is probably historically the very first album on a very cult label, AKA.
Dave, you agree? You disagree? You don't know?
That's a great record. I know. I would agree. I mean, in that sort of 80s period of Chicago, you know, where Thomas just started off in 84, sort of coming through, it started to go, you know, lots of tracks were being put out. I mean, there's another good label. I dug these out really quick, but I'll show you a couple of my favorite. I've got this, you know, I really like, for Chicago, for me, I'm a huge Larry Heard fan, Mr. Fingers, yeah? And I've got some of the early things like this, Robert Owens, yeah? I'm Strong, on Alleviated Music, yeah? From 1987, this is. I've got all the Alleviated, and that was like Larry Heard. There we go. See, look at this. This is like me and Stunty doing a thing. So look at that. See, he's pulling out the I'm Strong with the, yeah, see, here we go. Look, we're both holding up the same record. I love that.
But he's also responsible for this, which is even better.
Gherkin Jerks, yeah. Wicked label. I love the graphics on that.
Yeah. Well, there's so many Gherkin. Yeah, I've got them all.
Oh, Larry Levan, right, here we go.
Yeah, so what I want to point out is that house music was actually the new version of disco. So Larry Levan was very famously doing in late 70s remixes of songs. And then Frankie Knuckles came in, I think, for Chicago in the warehouse, and where he created this kind of music. And that's why it's called house. So let's be very thankful to those disco DJs for creating this new genre. I just wanted to point that out.
So about that, I've interviewed Larry Heard quite a few times. I played with him, the guy that Dave is talking about. And his story is actually what is bridging with what Nadine is talking about. He basically was just too young to go to the big cult discotheques to see Larry Levan and the Paradise Garage, all of that. And when he was of age, disco was over because of the Disco Sucks movement. So basically, there was no economy for disco anymore. And the reason why house music sounds like it sounds, it's because he tried to mimic the disco band using a bass sequencer, the 303, and then the 707, 808, or 909 for the drums, the 404. That's the birth of house music is in constraint. Like, we're not allowed to do disco, so I'm gonna mimic disco and thus invent house without even thinking about it.
Dave, when did you become first aware of, as you have been in London, which is of course a very hot, a very cool space at that time, not as cool, of course, like Düsseldorf, but how did you get aware of house music? Was it?
I love your point of view there, Michael. Well, we're already over in London. We're very quick to jump on scenes that we like, and there was a group of guys. Oh God, I've got to remember their names. Is it St. Clair? There was a group of guys that latched onto this music in about 1986, 87. And we had what was called the Summer of Love in 1988 in the UK. And it's when a lot of these illegal raves started happening, illegal acid house parties. I won't call them raves because rave is seen as a bit of a later thing, but essentially they were parties. We had the whole ecstasy thing happening, and it was an amalgamation, and we just went head first, like we do as Englishmen, into it. And
then let me get into my follow-up question, please, because I remember this time, of course, as I'm a few days older than you also. But when it came, the real house, then when it was a little bit more established, not the song like Thomas just played, I totally disliked house. I tell you why. I was always on the discotheque, and it started great, and I always stood there and said, "Okay, now you can start. Yeah, this is a great moment. Start now." Yes, and if you start now, I go to the dance floor, but it never starts. Remember that, or was I the only one who thought like this?
Well, on that, it's not exact. Like Dave was talking about the Summer of Love in '88, which basically is Manchester DJs originally who went to Ibiza and who came back with it.
That's
which
correct,
is why
yeah.
This is very important for the UK. This is the compilation
Thank
that
you
really.
for not answering my question, Stante.
No, but like I'm going to that. Like this,
okay.
really, the initial house music on there was in the charts and had hooks, had lyrics, had like you got like Tikoi.
Yeah, but remember what I said. I said when house was more and more established, this typical house music, it was just a flow and not hooks and melodies and now and more and more and more. It was always the same level, and that's what I disliked at the time.
Yeah, but like the time you're talking about, I assume would be when KLF was super big and maybe one of the biggest bands in the world. So there was also different.
Do you consider the KLF house music?
100%.
Okay.
Like it's rave music, but because like rave. How is Chicago, New York, and whatever in Europe, but there's another aspect that they've talked about that is crucial for how this music became big and massively popular in the UK. It's because of two separate events. One, which Dave talked about, the ecstasy, but also the fact that all the British football clubs were banned from European competitions. Hooliganism. No, but it's real. Like the moratorium for the British football club started in the fall of '87 when Alex Ferguson was named head coach of Manchester United, and the mission was to get back into the European Championship. So we had to calm down, and then came ecstasy, which calmed down everyone, and it was kind of a virtuous circle because everyone was happy. There was enough customers of drugs so that the gangs were not fighting anymore. There was no reason because the economy was flourishing in the underground market. And yeah, what do you think, Dave?
I have to say, Stunty, we did have a very bad reputation in Europe. And I've had this firsthand because I went on the stag do around that time to Prague with all my friends, yeah. And these friends were football friends, yeah, who were into this scene, yeah. And we went there, and I have to say that on the second night, the hotel got raided by armed police and took all our passports away.
Yeah.
But I'm not like that anymore.
Nadine, so how was it? Have you been in the club scene when house came out, or are you too young?
I'm too young.
Serious.
There are differences in house music. I love vocal house. I'm very much into vocal house because they use samples from a lot of 70s tracks, especially Teddy Pendergrass. So that's what I like. So I do get the house music I'm listening to, like vocal house. You have an instrumental part, then you have the melody part, the hook line, from the Teddy Pendergrass. That's what I enjoy very much. Then you have, once again, a long instrumental beat track. So it depends on how the person is mixing it together, blending it together. But like I said, I prefer vocal house. And when you just have instrumentals, I have the same feeling as you. When there's without any vocals, I do get...
You is me in this case.
Yes.
Okay.
Thomas, there's something important I wanted to say as well, because...
Okay, then we go to Dave now, and then we go to Thomas. Yep.
Just quickly, because you got Chicago, but we've got to look at the Detroit thing as well, which is a slightly different route, because over in Detroit, there was a DJ there, the Wizard, that played on one of the radio stations there, and he was playing things like Kraftwerk, like Funkadelic, Yeah. Now this created a different outlook on the music, and they were also getting these early Roland drum machines and synths, and and everything, and the music coming from there was different. And that they say, like, you got Derek May, Warren Atkins, Kevin Saunderson. They were getting this, yeah, and they were like combining these sounds from Germany, from Kraftwerk, yeah, with the funk of Funkadelic, and coming out with a whole different thing, which is, you can hear the differences between Chicago and Detroit really, really easily, and I love that. I love both of them. They're both amazing.
I think you were thinking of Electrifying Mojo, Dave.
No, Sandy, now let's hear Thomas' take, please. As he also has been an active DJ. What's your take on house music? What's your favorite kind of house music?
I think I grew up in a small city in Denmark and DJ'd there for many years. And house music, I think it came in like 87 with tracks like Movie Body. I didn't hear it before that, and it was not a scene in where I live. But you could play some tracks. Some tracks got into the top 10, and you could play those.
Do you have something prepared for us? What we can listen to now?
The next one, I jumped a year forward to 1985, and this time is also from Chicago, but it's on a different label called Tracks, and it's a guy called Don Hardy.
Nice one. And I can imagine that Nadine will agree when I say this is quite close to disco, isn't it? Still quite close.
That's why I always say disco never died. It just emerged to a different genre.
You're right, but I think techno is not much disco anymore.
No, I'm not into techno, no.
But for me, but maybe I'm completely wrong. So correct me if I'm wrong. When I say that house merged into techno, is that wrong?
Yeah,
no, they both came at the same time, roughly. I mean, I've got, techno was coming around in the early 80s as well. I mean, I've shown these before. I'll show them quickly again now. But like, you've got things like so Cybertron, Alleys of Your Mind on Deep Space. So is a white label of it. So this is there we go. This is Warren Atkins from 1981. Alleys of Your Mind, and Cosmic Rain Dance on the other side. There's a few different versions. I've got the whole lot.
So this is a rare occasion, as you are totally not into 7 inches, right?
Yeah, I know, but this is the only way you can get these, because these are so rare. I remember getting hold of these. This is before the internet. I remember I had to do a swap. Someone wanted the Champ by the Mohawks, and I had it, and they were in Detroit, and so they said, "Look, I've got Alleys of Your Mind. Let's do a swap." And I swapped it. It's all pre-internet stuff, and I got hold of this lovely little white label of it. But that's 1981, and there was another track at the same time called Shivari by a number of names, and this was again 1981, and these are sort of considered the very first Detroit techno tracks, and this one's great because it's got lyrics, and they're talking about their sort of aspirational young teenagers wanting to drink fine wine and eat cheese, and it's electronic, and it's like they're aspiring to a different life. Because you've got to remember that a lot of this came out of poverty. This music, they were hard places, right? both Detroit and Chicago. So they were trying to, inspirational music can come from these places. Yeah, and this is what was going on.
Nice.
Actually, I have to agree with Michael now that I think about it, because this record that I'm sure Dave knows, and even Nadine, this is like a side project from one of the producers of Ceron. So it's a French disco record, boogie, but that goes into like really weird electronics. It's from 78 or 77, Jungle DJ. And Larry Levin, Larry Levin and Ron Hardy sampled that. And the way they sampled that is where all Detroit techno aesthetic is coming from a track sample from this sample. So, and both Larry Levin and Ron Hardy is Chicago, so there is a connection that way for sure.
Thanks. Okay, hit us. Yeah.
I'm reliving my teenage years.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a connection to Love Your Baby.
Yeah, I just saw that at the background there was some very nice noises.
The way to sing, but I think it was one of the biggest hits from Chicago in 1985. Okay. And it's also, I don't know if everybody considers it as house music, but I think it is.
Well, there's a lot of music from early 80s that is not officially house music, but that were part of the canon of what the house DJ were playing. So that became house de facto.
Yeah, just by being played by some DJs means that you're into the family. I get it. Yeah.
Basically, the tracks that had the DNA where house is spawned from, even if it was not produced as a house tune, because house didn't necessarily exist. But a lot of the long versions, the dub versions of disco, boogie, 12 inches, or white funk from New York, early 80s. That's where house is coming from. House is also coming from like this white funk, post-punk, New York things. Talking Heads is almost a house band in a way.
Yeah. And Stunty, that sort of Balearic scene as well. The music that was being played in Ibiza. Yeah. There's a different thing, isn't there? That the famous Balearic beats was a very some of the tunes there was like Stunty's totally right. There was a sort of a melting pot going on at the time, and there was other tracks being played that might not can be considered house tracks, but they were, because they were being played in these clubs, you see. So
this is a perfect example of this Balearic thing that Peter Jack band. This was not house, but when you play it, it is like this Balearic, slower tempo tune that was totally, even when you play today, there's something futuristic about it in a very romantic way, which is one thing I think is important to say about Chicago house and Detroit techno, not necessarily New York techno house, but the fact that music is very romantic, not just sexual, but very romantic.
True.
There is some sexual stuff with Blake Baxter and KLXy and stuff like that, though.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, one question now, because, and this of course comes with a reason. We say we play some house today, but we also talk about the Warp label. Why does this make sense?
So look, we're looking at the 80s at the moment, and sort of the lead up to the, let's go to sort of 88, 89. Now in the UK, there were people coming, they were hearing this music, and it was obviously changing their lives. But also there was music production going on here. So people were hearing this and thinking it's amazing. So labels started up, and Warp is a prime example of that. They're based in Sheffield in the UK, very industrial town. And, they were here, this whole scene, you got to think about this sort of industrial type of electronic music. You know, the 80s had happened, there was punk, and then this was being condensed into a more sort of pure form of electronic music, and Warp were right at the start of that, you know, over here, along with other, B12. You've got Global Communication, Evolution Records, Mark Pritchard, Tom Middleton. You've got Aphex Twin, early, Reflex Rate, all of that stuff coming together. I mean, we were the scene here was crazy in that early 90s period. Oh, tune. Love this tune.
Aphex.
I think we now have to be a little careful, but let's enjoy. Important, unbelievable, magnificent record. I love it.
What they were saying about Sheffield, you have to go back to this, I think.
Oh, there we go. Cabaret Voltaire. Look now.
Because
this is so.
Because let it run, Thomas. Let it run.
Sheffield has a studio called the Phone Studio, FON, which was helmed by Robert Gordon, who was the guy behind the Forge Masters. This is the very first
track with no name, yeah.
Yeah, this is the very first Warp release. I have the white label test pressing somewhere. I wanted to put it.
I've got two.
Yeah.
I think I might have a spare of that. Actually.
Well, I have it with the red stamp as well.
But Dave,
the first one that they drove round and sold the record shop.
I wouldn't have dared to show Cabaret Voltaire now. Why does it fit? Why does it fit?
The thing is that Robert Gordon in the mid 80s, the late 80s, was producing all the Cabaret Voltaire stuff that was actually relevant, the stuff that was...
Yeah, okay, that might be, but Stunty, musically. Not because
musically.
People are... Yeah, but Cabaret Voltaire and house...
Right?
Listen to this, Michael. This is house music.
Okay, then this is a very different Cabaret Voltaire record.
From 87 to 90, Cabaret Voltaire is pure house music.
Okay.
And Robert Gordon is the co-founder of Warp Records.
Yeah.
People think Warp is two guys, but originally there were three guys. The thing that is a bit sad is that Robert Gordon is black, and he got evicted. The story was never clear. You can get part of the story in this, but this is the official story. So when you ask the guys from, they will tell you a story, but when you ask Robert Gordon, who has mastered the 6 tunes for me, he has a very different story. And he's in Sheffield. So this has also to do with the fact that Sheffield is the birthplace or the core of the sound systems, the big dub sound systems, which is where you could get the bass, which was very instrumental for the labels that really inspired Warp Records. And I guess that Dave has to talk about Network, which is basically the founding moment for this music in the UK, especially with this compilation that really helped the English producer to get their own identity while still saying hello to
Nexus 21.
Yeah, because you will get Derek May on this, but you will also get the what was his name again? Nexus 21, which is amazing.
The British guys that were doing great album theirs as well. I love their album.
Which is technically techno, but he also did a wonderful remix of House Master Baldwin in Chicago, which later got reissued on Reflex, Aphex Twins label. So it's back then it was more freestyle, like to say that it was techno house. Well,
it was a mishmash of everything, wasn't it? It was everything just going around everywhere.
Okay, Thomas, let's get for a few seconds back into Aphex. Give us a little more volume. Thank you. I mean, when we think about the time this album came out, breathtaking, isn't it? What year is it? I don't have it. Is it
92.
92. Funnily, Dave, this one didn't come out in England. This is on a Belgian label.
Yeah, it's on
R&S?
Well, yeah, it's on R&S, and R&S were, again, very important to point out. Every track on this album is a killer. I love this track as well.
This is a perfect album. It's unbelievable.
Because me and my pal, we used to sit and listen to this album at the time. You know, when it came out in '92. And, you know, R&S again were at the forefront in Belgium. You know, before then, you know, Aphex Twin put out a few 12, but you know, under you know, he had the one on Mighty Force, and then a couple of sort of bit more hardcorey ones like on Rabbit City. You know, Didgeridoo appeared on Rabbit City, and he got signed to R&S. And then, you know, this album was an absolute game changer. But it's important to look at the others that were going on at the same time. I mean, for me, I love B12. So, you know,
yeah, this is a killer album. I remember, Nadine.
Because somebody in the Peanut Gallery asked for Patrick Cowley, and yeah, he is.
It's not the same, but it looks similar. Look at this.
Well, it's the one from '81. This one.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is the promo, I think, for this one.
We got this together, remember?
Yes, and we played it at your.
Yeah, and I was so exactly, and I was so surprised. I said, "This is amazing," because this is disco too. Yeah.
Somehow, yes.
All of his records from back then are interesting, but they've released a lot of archival releases from back then that were never released, that are way more avant-garde, that were done at the same time.
But they released a lot of music after his death because he did a lot of soundtracks for gay porn movies. And they found the tapes for these movies and re-released it later on. And he worked together with the disco singer Sylvester, and he was also producing Mighty Real to get the disco connection once again.
Yeah, the version that most people have heard of Donna Summer, I Feel Love, is the Patrick Cowley remix.
Yes, exactly. That's the 16 minutes. I think he was the first one to do the 16 minutes version. And he shopped it around for the DJs.
Where do we get the 16-minute version?
On the 12-inch from Casablanca.
Nadine, does she come twice on this version?
At least. Depends on the man, of course.
Oh, we get into trouble, Thomas. We get into trouble.
But Dave, this was very important as well, I think.
Oh, Spiral Tribe. Okay, yeah. Again, it's always important to mention the whole free party scene that was going on here in the UK. Yeah. Spiral Tribe are one of the, you know, Stunty, I did my fair share of squat parties back in the day, right? So
yeah. But as much as I want to give Dave credit with his, you know, ego, it really came from the north in the UK. Dance music really, like London.
I'm a southerner, mate.
I mean, 92 is a bit late, I must say.
They were big. I mean, Stunty, we should probably look at things, think of like the Hacienda Club in Manchester.
Yeah.
So it's important to look at the sort of scene up in the north. And, you know, maybe that ties in a bit as well. If we go back further, think of the whole northern soul scene. Yeah. Which was very much driven from the north, from Wigan, from there. You know, they were into the Detroit thing there. And again, of the post-punk Joy Division, Manchester, and the whole clubbing thing, the Hacienda, Factory Records, it was very big. You know, it was driven from northern party goers, going to these and hearing all this mad music going on. So,
because there was less rules also in the north.
Oh, more rules in the south.
Here we have a man from the north. a real Viking.
Yeah.
Are we at the warp label right now, Dave, or have we already gone away from the warp label? Let's get back into the warp label, please. How did it all start? What are the first warp releases? What can you tell us about those?
Tell you what, I can grab some off my shelf here, and we can have a look at some of the artificial intelligence records. Yeah, I mean they're all stunning. I mean, I know people in the OBC know. In fact, let me have a little look here. Probably one that we're all familiar with. I'll just do this straight off the bat. And such an important compilation. We know this. Yeah. Look, the very first artificial intelligence compilation on Warp. Yeah, artificial intelligence.
So did they start the label with those compilations?
No, they didn't. They started with 12 inches. What Stunty's holding. That was the first record. And then you had like LFO, Tricky Disco, tracks like those, which it was very much 12 inches.
And Sweet Exorcist, which is Cabaret Voltaire.
Yes, of course. Richard H. Kirk, right?
The fourth single on the Warp is Richard H. Kirk from Cabaret Voltaire, Sheffield.
Yeah.
So and then the first record, the first LP was this sampler. Then after they did those 12 inches, they came up with those releases.
Yeah,
right?
and the very earliest one of this, by the way, just I know people have got to see it. The very first copies came with a big promotional poster, which is impossible to get. I've only ever seen 2 copies with it, right? So, and it's just such a beautiful thing, and I just love the picture. It's so what they were doing here was so ahead of the game.
And look at the record on the floor, Dave. You see the record, of course. Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. Of course,
offside. It's just so and it's only when you look back, some 31 years later, you look at this. I mean, the tracks on this album are brilliant. Look at the artists you've got there. You've got Black Dog. You've got Dr. Alex Patterson. The Orb, Stunty. The Orb were very important back then because the Orb allowed indie kids to get involved in the electronic music, right?
So the songs on this sampler, are those the songs you have had earlier on 12-inch, or are those different?
No, it's exclusive.
No, this was done specifically. And, a lot of these were licensed tracks. I mean, things like Speedy J, D-Orbit, which is one of my very favorites. That, you got Alteca on here, yeah?
The first Alteca track on the Warp, yeah.
Yeah, you got B12, Musicology. Yeah, I mean, it's really quite an important, see, look, it says Polygon Window by the Dice Man. Aphex Twin was going under the name The Dice Man. Yeah. But then, the album came out as Polygon Window, which, that album's amazing as well, Surfing on Sine Waves. But I mean, this is kind of the birth of the whole, they call it IDM, Intelligent Dance Music. Yeah. Balls of Canada, these sort of bands, Mask Records, it spurred, but really, I think you could pretty much pinpoint it back to this album as this sort of direction of more electronic listening music. Coming out of the the sort of dance, the rave that was going on into something that was for home listening, So it's crazy times.
When this album came out, Dave,
yeah,
was it a huge success and everybody on the BBC was talking about it? How was it? Yeah, I know, but I asked this question for the people, so now you can talk about it.
Yeah,
this stuff. I mean, it was known, but I mean, you've got to remember, it was quite. You're not going to be walking down your local WH Smith or Woolworths to buy this album. It's more specialists than that. It's very much of the scene. The same with what Thomas, the selected ambient works. I mean, it wasn't. They hadn't. It was heading that way, but it wasn't huge.
Yeah.
Wow! Look at that
iconic jacket, huh?
Dave, I would argue that the second volume of Artificial Intelligence was much more influential because it came out at the right time when the one you showed, like techno, electro, was still very much a niche thing.
Yeah.
But this
you're
one,
right. That one's different. Yeah. Perfect timing, Stunty, right?
I'm going to show you something. I just wanted to show you something you might have never seen, Dave.
Come on. Ah, what's that? Look at that.
That's the Japanese cassette VHS of the videos in the compilation with the CD. Wait, let me see.
Coming back big time at the moment.
See? Still sealed.
Wow.
So that means you don't listen to your cassettes.
And what's interesting with the CD of this is that it features another very important figure in electronic British music, and that was not on the vinyl and not on the regular CD, because it came out as a simple CD or a double, which is Scanner. Robin Wingo was there as well when he was like basically recording secretly record company executives doing their dirty deeds and put them into music. And the first compilation that Dave showed, I don't know if you're familiar with the story, Dave, but the two guys from Warp, when they had managed to get rid of, unfortunately, Robert Gordon, they basically invited to a meetup in a pub in London, Aphex Twin, Ottaker, B12, Black Dog, etc., and tell them, we're going to give you 4 album contracts if you stay with us, which was unheard of for that kind of music back then.
Wow.
They basically were saying, we're going to bet on you, because all these guys, they had their own labels or their own thing going on. And the one band that said no is B12. And B12 didn't amount as much as the others, because they signed a one record deal, 1-by-1 deal. And they got left on the side of the road a little bit.
That's unfortunate, but I mean, it was, I guess, hey, by the way, I love that's got a VHS cassette in it. Unbelievable.
Thomas, have you prepared some music for us in the meantime?
Yeah, we just talked about Borders of Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sure how safe we are playing these records, but I love this. I so love it.
I get the impression that it's been inspired by Connie Plum. I get the impression that this has been inspired by Connie Plum.
Yeah, that's amazing. But I think we should talk a little bit over about this music, because it is quite popular. We have to be careful. Yeah, music has the right to children. What an album, right?
Yeah.
And Thomas put it up this evening on the OBC shop, but it's already gone, because I can tell you, getting those British first pressing in a good condition is everything but easy. It took me 1.5 years to get one. Yeah. Really, Richard? Good idea. Yeah. Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I love that record. It's a beautiful record.
Me too. What's your favorite, Dave? What's your favorite concert, if you have one?
Well, I've got the original Tourism album, of which there's only 100 copies.
Okay.
Which, Thomas just showed, actually. But that's
with the maybe show this again, because this, for those who are not that familiar, you have another one. Nice. The Tourism is a very, very rare and quite expensive record. I don't know
the original one on Music 70, which was their
own. Yeah. Of course. What do you think? What Thomas just showed today?
No, he showed the reissue, because the original is actually doesn't exist. Actually, it's a myth. But then it's not one from the 90s.
I have to show you. I'll dig it up for. I'll dig it up for. I'll tell you what. That can be on the Sunday stream.
All right.
Thomas, which copy did you just do?
They told me it's a joke.
This one is 2002.
It's okay.
Because Dave will prove us wrong then.
There's a music. I mean, there was 100 copies. I've definitely got the one from the 90s. Cost a lot of money.
All right, we'll see. This is the first one that was really released commercially that you could find in the shops. The first version of it is with the blue insert. That's the only one that has it. When it came out, I remember it was in the Rough Trade shop in Paris in 1996. They got 5 copies, and it's the first time in my life I bought several copies of the same record when it was released. I bought 3 copies of it, which was very good for me later because you could sell this for 400 quid 2 years later. And I remember I wrote a review of that in 1996 saying, of course, when you read, by the time you read this record will be impossible to find. Remember, that was before the internet or Discogs and all that.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, basically, I know it's pointless for me to review this, but then when the next record, whenever and wherever the next record comes out, because this was on Scam, not on Warp. That had nothing to do with Warp, apart from the fact that this is the label of the mates of Audiophile. But yeah, we didn't know if there would be.
But the first 2 Audiophile are also on Warp, right?
Yeah. But they're from a little city on the side of Manchester called Rochdale, and Scam, the label, is from Manchester, and it's their mates. And the very first Audiophile release is under the alias Legofit, which is before. And well, I could show it, but a fun thing, because I know you guys like goodies and weird stuff. So like, it has a catalog number.
Frisbee in the park in summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting what you keep, Santi. Nice. That's
great. Man. But about the internet thing, and you were asking Michael about like which releases are important in the age where we didn't have the internet, or at least not in the capacity we have now. One of the crucial releases of Warp of the late 90s is this one, WAP 100. WAP is the catalog number for non-album, so it's for compilations or EPs
and stuff. Yeah.
What's really interesting with this is that it's got the whole catalog listing of the Warp catalog. You could learn what existed before the internet existed, basically. And here's the promo sticker, by the way.
I love look at that. I love a promo sticker. We are reasonable people. Yeah, that is stunning.
I have tons of promo stuff like that, because there's one thing that we forgot to say about how influential, like all these RNS, GPR, amazing labels, but Warp had Designer Republic, which is what made the big difference.
They were like the Blue Note of the electronic world, in terms of the graphics and the presentation as well, is so strong. You know, in fact, I'm going to show a couple, Stunty. Look, I've got in fact, so talking about Audiophile, look, the anti-EP, the very first EP they did.
Nice.
Yeah. This is very simple design. This stickered sleeve is just so like that. Look.
I look for such a long time. I look for this record, Dave, and now you have it.
Well, it's in the shop, so you better go and get it, right?
I don't buy a record in my own shop.
Dave.
And this, well, look, the sleeve designs. Chris Cunningham, the famous Chris Cunningham, who did all the amazing Aphex Twin videos, with the on the little girls and everything at school running around, was involved, and Designers Republic combination, Audiophile sleeve.
Yeah.
You see, the design that they did was top level. Yeah,
it was for sure. Yeah.
Dave.
So what is
all that?
It's draft, but this is the white label test pressing of the record that they was showing.
Wow. Oh, you've got the white label TP.
And we go to it. So you give it a second.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Thomas Autechre.
Yeah, this is the white label of this, but that's not the first EP by Autechre. This is the first one.
Yeah, I've got Cavity Job. Yeah, that's before. That's a bit more hardcore style, though, right?
And before Anti, they did that. The Bascad EP.
Oh, yeah, Bass Cadet. Yeah.
Dave, why does some people, as it seems rightfully, say that Autechre is hip hop?
They like their beats. I mean, look. Again, they were taking. You know, it's interesting. Stunty shows that Cavity Job because if you listen to that, it's more hardcore. It's got hardcore samples in it and drum break beats. And you know, they took. I mean, you know, they came. They were taking a load of different styles in, and they were also seen as one of the groups that are really at the forefront of the whole IDM movement as well. Obviously, with the links to Scam. You know, that came after, you know, Autechre were right there at the start, but they, you know, they were into bands like Noi. You know, there's actually a 12-inch with them doing a remix of Noi. Yeah. So they were taking in all these different styles of music, and some of it is breakbeaty. So again, that's got links to hip hop using breakbeat samples.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the reason why.
Thomas, can you prepare some Autechre for us that you can listen to it a little bit? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
That's the Noi Autechre.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's it. The play. Yeah, so see, look, original composition by Noi.
Weissensee, yeah.
Again, released on Warp, okay? So
yeah. But the thing is that, like that very first, the Cavity Job 12-inch, they even sampled Hawkwind on it. It's very subtle, but when you know your Hawkwind and Autechre, which is maybe not everyone, but it's there. But they were hip hop kids, you know. In the late 80s, all these street sound compilations, that's basically their Bible. And up until maybe recently, most of Autechre tracks, you can break them down to a 90 BPM tempo, which is the tempo of hip hop.
Mm-hmm. Some of their tracks, they can be played at 33 or 45, can't they?
Yeah.
So that's, you know, they were very much, they were crossing sort of different lines there in style. And a lot of people chat about that. If you read about it, you'll see, oh, this can be played at 33 for a more down tempo mood, or it can be played at 45. So, yeah.
Nice. Nadine, your take on Autechre, if you have.
I don't have a take. I'm just listening here and learning, because for me this is a whole new
next time we meet, Nadine, we listen to Autechre, okay?
Yes,
maybe
there was something pretty fun also about collecting Warp and Autechre. This one was never released commercially. When you were buying records from Autechre, you could subscribe to an early online or mailing list, and they would send you this letter explaining to you how you could order this. And that was the first online purchase, in a way. Before online, actually, I sent my 10. I went to the exchange bureau and got like 10 quid, put it in an envelope, and sent it to them. And
so you have been an Autechre fan from the very first minute. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, 92. Since 92, like if you see from from there to there, it's only Autechre records.
So that means also you are an Autechre completionist, like with
the only band. He's an Autechre super fan, is what he is.
Yeah, it's the only band I don't get all the CDs, but on vinyl I have more. I have like Japanese promos of remixes they did that only came out in 5 copies, like test pressings. No, there's no other release. Like I have, like, yeah, it's. I mean, you have to understand that back in the 90s, when you got the opportunity, the chance to be into that music early on, there was nothing as futuristic at that music. Nothing, at least new music for youth. Yeah. So you were literally becoming a bit like of a fanatic. That was like people who knew me associated me with Autechre.
Also Autechre fan from the very first minute.
Do you know, I'll be honest with you, not from the very first minute. They crept in a little bit later for me. This, you know, again, music's a discovery, isn't it? You know, and I was listening to different things. I was going out to some of those early club, the early 90s sort of techno and house scene in London. There was some amazing clubs going on, like Eurobeat 2000. And also Deep Space, run by... We listened to a lot of radio back then, and there was a Kiss FM when it used to be a pirate radio station. And you had Colin Favour and Colin Dale. You had Colin Favour on a Tuesday. Colin Dale, I think, was on a Thursday. And he had his shows, it's called Outer Limits. And, you know, they were playing some of the freshest electronic music that you would ever hear. And it literally blew your mind listening to these shows. And also on Kiss FM, Future Sound of London did a lot of their very first broadcasts on Kiss FM, and they were playing all this very early 90s electronic music, and that's where the discovery happened, you know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Dave,
go on.
Excuse me, Thomas, have you prepared some Autechre?
Saying that for 3 years. That's why Dan is saying that.
From what year is this record, Thomas? Can you see that, or do you know that?
93.
93? Thanks.
There's a rare limited edition silver vinyl version of that.
There's an even rarer version with an alternative cover.
Is there?
The silver cover, the silver vinyl sounds like shit, but there's one with the black vinyl with the same artwork as that, but inverted. Like, because there's some printing inside the cardboard, and they printed the other way around, and they only did like 200 copies of that.
Nice.
But Vinyl Dreamscape just mentioned something interesting. It still sounds like the future in 2024. Yeah. I just want to say a little thing here, just very quickly while listening, that longevity in music is a very important...
And keep the volume. It was perfect volume, Thomas.
And there's certain things you can put on that might be 30 years old and they sound fresh now as they did back then. That's a sign of great music.
Yeah. And we know on our Monday stream on the German channel from Peter, Basement 45, at the end we had a nice discussion about songs that aged very, very well and songs that didn't age that well. And I think we can say that Autechre, although they are not that old, but they age well until today.
Well, just think about it that way, Michael. When you were 20, a band that was 10 years old felt really old. This is a band that is 30 plus years old. They are 4 years old now. And for me, that record, which is the first official album, now when it's the only one I think has actually aged. Because you can...
this is a typical stunty now, but I think you can still listen to this one, and in my opinion, it sounds very young and fresh still.
Oh, it's very nice, but it's still Autechre doing the music of the time before they become Autechre in a way.
Yeah, of course. They needed a few hours to become themselves. Okay, who doesn't, right?
I think that this is totally timeless, because this could have been also recorded in the 70s, like with all the synthesizers and everything. So for me, this is absolutely timeless. It sounds future-wise, but it could also been done in the late 70s. And that's what's absolutely fascinating about it. I need to get some of these Autechre records, but I'm pretty sure they are expensive, right?
No, they are not that expensive. Around for a really good clean copy, Stunty will get them for 20, but usually you pay 40. Okay, but realistic is 120 to 140 to 150 for a very good copy.
Okay, I like that. I really like it.
Yeah. Well, it also depends. There are also really, really expensive ones. This box with the black dot is terrible expensive. It really depends when it comes to audio. The brown box with the black dot on it. Terrible expensive.
So you're not talking about this one?
No. Later, it is not that old, and it's a little box set.
He's going into his Audiophile shelf. And it's like big.
No, he's occupied for an hour.
Yeah, no, it's so big. The shelf's so big.
Oh, this is something fun, by the way. This is an album by Audiophile. An album, a studio album. 13 LP album.
Yeah.
No,
it's the the sessions. The
sessions. Yeah.
I have that. I have this too. I love it.
12,
you like
sorry.
it? You like it?
But it will take a lifetime to really get through it.
Yeah, it's a tough ride. It's a tough ride.
But it's great. And but really the thing is, Audiophile is so special. You know, with people who were in it back then, Aphex Twin got really big. Audiophile got the biggest you could, but still in the underground. When Aphex Twin managed to have some crossover with the mainstream.
Yeah.
So there is kind of
probably especially when it comes to Aphex Twin Stunty, I think it helped him a lot that he does all those remixes, right? That he got in contact with all of them.
Audiophile or the master of remixes. Aphex Twin is great too, but what helped Aphex Twin is that he created something, a paradox that is almost cynical, because back then we used to say techno, the music with no name. So he created a logo that became very famous, and he also put his face on the cover of all his records, which no one does in techno. No one.
That's true. He did some marketing scams for sure. And
that's marketing.
Yeah. So
but essentially,
Thomas, what's your take on Audiophile? You like them? You hate them? You don't care? You love them?
No, I think they're really important. For me, important part of the history of house music and music in general. I tried to collect them all, but I didn't hear them in the early 90s. I heard them maybe 10 years ago and started to collect those.
And again, you said it again, and I'm in an inner disagreement. Audiophile for me is not house music. Dave, help me, or am I wrong? Audiophile is house music? Are you sure?
Well, it's electronic music from an era where I suppose house is can be a very broad brush across many styles, and as much as maybe it's more listening style, some of the instruments that will be used there can still be put down. You know, the Roland TR-808 drum machine, TR-909, with the TB-303 bass line put in there. These are house and techno machines. So I think trying to sort of stamp it with a particular, this is house music, but I would count it as house electronic. It can be what it can be.
But isn't it ambient? Sorry. For me, for I've just heard it's more ambient. Just what Thomas played. For me, it's ambient.
Okay. Now Stunty.
So Audiophile, I see what Nadine said makes sense in a way. For me, Audiophile is electro. If you think about music that is not the academy or not jazz, basically pop music. For me, rock, techno, house, hip hop, all of this is pop music. Autechre is a branch of pop music, the electro, who went through all the motions so far that they reached back to the actual Academy of Avant-Garde. So they basically, it's the punk band, the guy who doesn't know how to do but does it anyways. But they went so far that they managed to go back to the beginning of the pure avant-garde ideas. And
so are you at Music Concrete or
yeah,
where? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Even there's some of Autechre that is
I agree.
Concrete, but Autechre is all. What's funny to me when Nadine says they're ambient, because I agree, but at the same time, Autechre is the most rhythmical and percussive band of all.
It can be quite noisy for ambient.
No, but it's all about the most complex rhythmic structures. When you think Autechre, it's complex rhythmic structure, but also this is an EP in 2 parts. The EP7. Back then, Warp used to do to release the records in 2 parts. This is a joyous record from, I believe, 98 or 99 maybe, where they use instruments, and it's almost like a game of like, which instrument did they use to do this sound? Because something will sound like strings, something will sound like horns, and there was all this speculation about what did they use, because everyone tried to copy them as well, because it was so influential. And the thing is that by 2000, they don't use machines anymore. They do pure synthesis within the computer. They create their own instruments through Max MSP and other programs like that. But a thing that they did that was also very influential, that Aphex Twin did even at the same time, maybe even before, but he didn't do it too long, is the way they started to chop up vocals to do the which was totally
that comes also with the NTS session. It's very, very strong. Yeah,
and it comes when they were doing in '96, like the Guestcom EPs, which is obviously inspired by the guys like Latin Rascals, Shep Nunes, Mantronix, the electro of the mid-early '80s, but they did it in a way that completely influenced pop music in the early 2000s. You can hear stems of that in Britney Spears, in all the early 2000s, really mainstream pop music production techniques that were really championed by Autechre and Aphex Twin.
I think Thomas prepared a song for us, if I saw correctly with the headphones.
Yeah, I always have a few songs ready, but I think now we go back to America. We go to Detroit, still 1993.
I said emotional content, not anger.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Oh. Of course. Yeah. Now I have to show Nadine. And we have to be a little careful now.
Big tempo.
Can you show the record, Thomas?
Yes, show the record.
Oh, that's a great jacket.
Very artistic jacket.
Okay, Nadine, educate us.
Nadine, you must have the original of that, right, Nadine?
Yes, but I forgot where it's sampled from. But that's a very famous, a very famous disco track where it's been sampled from. But I forgot the name. But you have it, Santi.
Make it fast, Santi, because we are again at one of those famous moments where Thomas has a shitload of records on his knees. Okay, you go. Santi is looking up. Thomas. What are you showing? What are you showing now, Thomas? What kind of records?
It's one of my favorites from America, Moody Man, who did like 10 albums with house music, also combined with jazz music and funk music. It's some of the stuff that I played as a DJ.
Okay.
Thomas, it's a good time to mention Peace Frog Records, because I think it's important to talk, when talking about UK, to talk about Peace Frog, because they were at the forefront of putting out like Moody Man here in the UK. All these albums, you see.
So is this also into the realm and into the kind of records Nadine is still attached to, or is that too far away from disco, Nadine?
No, it's not. No, it's not too far away from disco. As we've just heard, this is a sample from a disco track, but I forgot the word of the disco track, but it's been sampled.
Moody
Like
Man.
I said, disco never died. Thank you.
Dave and I talked about that. He's talking about Peace Rock now. So I wanted to show him this.
Yeah, go on, Stumpy.
Moody Man. But Moody Man is the label, Thomas, now.
No, he's the artist.
It's the artist, okay. So he was quite prolific.
He still is.
I'm totally not aware of this guy.
Like, it's basically he's one of the fathers of deep house.
Okay.
Even if this is
when house got deep, I already decided that house is not for me.
Yeah, me too. And then I changed my mind.
But okay, the first phase we had in common, though.
Stumpy, can you show your little piece from sheet?
Yeah. This is for Dave.
This is brilliant.
What is it?
This came with this, which is the test pressing of the.
And what a record as well. You know, Stunty, that's the original as well. That came out originally on Peace Rock, right?
Yeah. So it features tons of great Detroit legends and super interesting tracks, with also a track by Matt Cougar, Neuropolitic, who I have all his records on. He released on New Electronica, but this is signed by someone who I'll say it. Some of the ERC people should know who this is.
It's Pete. Look, he signed the bottom of that letter. Wow.
Ah, of course he did.
And also,
this is his former electronic label, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Michael, on one of the best UK electronic labels there was. In the same regard, you know, I hold Peace Rock in the same regard as I do Warp, and all those early stuff. It was influential at the time. In fact, I'm going to show one because I dug it out. One of my I used to listen to this album daily. Dan Curtin, The Silicon Dawn on Peace Frog, and it's just such a great album. And again, we're going back to that early 90s time. I think this was 93 or 94, something like that. And it was, in fact, hold on, 94. And it was really at a time when all this stuff was coming out, and Peace Frog was so important at that time as well. There's loads of great 12 inches, techno, acid house, all that sort of thing. So,
but the Peace Frog was more label for the DJs, when Warp was more for listening.
Yeah, you're right. It was more of a DJ centric for music to be played out, and again, that Sonar 123 was so important. And Stunty, you know, that Matt Cogger, great, that Neuropolitique, amazing music. But he passed away, didn't he? He died.
Yeah, he did. Here are his records, the Neuropolitic ones.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that his first record was on this label, which is, in my opinion, very important to understand British electronic music, which is Dial.
Dial, yeah. Morganistic, all that sort of thing. I know the label.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, to old school, yes, you're right. The sample was from Spank, from Jimmy Bohorn. And yes, it's also included on this great album where he says, for my music sister. And on the other side, he wrote, "You are simply the best."
To you, Nadine, you are simply the best. He wrote that to you.
To me. So yes, once again, this was a highly successful disco track, Spank, and this was a sample. What we've just heard.
Spank, of course.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Also, yes, of course, I believe it.
At the time, I loved it.
Yep.
I thought it was from Billy Ocean.
No.
Kenny Dixon Jr.
Yeah, those KDJs are pretty rare.
Yeah. Oh, that one is absolutely That's a 300 euro record.
Remix Stunty, Sherard Ingram. You know that. I know that him. There's an amazing is it Urban Tribe on Retroactive, Cold Craig's label.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Well, if Stunty says this is a 300 euro record, that means it goes over 1,000 nowadays.
Oh.
You know, Dave, there's a Urban Tribe 12-inch with a Black Dog remix that is amazing.
I love Urban Tribe. That's one of my
Urban
favorites.
Tribe is almost kind of UK hardcore. It's kind of in between, which is a long story for another time.
It's not for now.
Thomas, how about the things we two really like when it comes to the Warp label? Maybe we lose Stunty now. Maybe even Dave is not up onto our alley. But we love these Nightmares on Waxed stuff, this loungy. Probably house music too. What's you have something for us from Nightmares on Waxed or from this area, from this Warp area? And Dave, what's your take on Nightmares on Waxed?
I love all those styles from that early.
No, you didn't. Really, I love to hear that.
Hip hop, no, it's cool. It's cool. I get it all. It was a great combination. It wasn't all one track. You know, this is what's important. Again, looking at Warp, it was the variety, style. All good.
Nightmares on Waxed.
Wow, look at those. Yeah.
What are we looking at, Stunty? What is it?
It's self-released Nightmares on Wax 12 inches, like dub.
12 inches? Are your hands that big?
7 inches, sorry.
Okay.
So I love him. I think like the first two albums have some great stuff. The first album I really like. The second one I think has aged, but there's some great singles with great remixes by LFO and others. Yeah. And he's a sweetheart. He's probably the nicest artist on Warp.
Really?
Yeah. And I've met them all.
Nice.
That was a big album, by the way.
It was big.
It was, right? It was really successful, Stunty, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was kind of before trip hop, and people who were like, when acid jazz was huge, that was they managed to market it to the acid jazz crowds.
It's something like pre-Mowax, isn't it? It was that early thing before Mowax happened, and like that sort of crazy acid jazz trip hop thing. I know acid jazz was around before, but yeah.
I don't know that one. Is it also on Warp, Thomas, this one? Yeah, this is. I love this one. And for all of those who listen to my, who watch my channel, those are amazing sounding records. The sound of those records, the quality of the recording is stunning. They sound wonderful.
Yeah, that one is his best one according to me.
That's your favorite?
I think it's the most accomplished one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
You too? There you go.
But it's not amongst the first, or am I mistaken?
No, it's from the early. It's in the 2000s.
Yeah.
2006.
Okay.
From 2006.
Good to know.
But the one you need to have, Michael, that we haven't talked about, the one that bridges Detroit to the UK, to Sheffield, and to Germany, is this one.
Oh, now that's an
Oh.
And there's also a single.
That album, Stunty. I love Drexciya, right?
So yeah, this is Drexciya that are doing basically Kraftwerk pastiche.
Yeah.
There's an EP before. Here's the test pressing of it.
Do you have one second? Do you have this album, Thomas? If so, it would be amazing if you put this on. You don't have. Okay.
For years, that was one of the most expensive records on Warp, and they reissued it.
Can you put it on?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. We make a little Santi session now.
Guys, I'm sorry, I have to go. We have an emergency at work. I will rewatch this stream later on. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining.
And Michael, please let's listen to some Warp when we see each other.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Well, you come to me, Nadine.
Yes, I will come to you. But it's when it's warmer.
Yeah.
Santi, stop talking. Pull up the record.
I'm gonna try to.
We give you. No problem. We have still nightmares on Waxed. When did you get into nightmares on Waxed, Thomas? Early on, or did you discover them a little later?
I think early on. I think I collected them from the beginning. Yeah.
What's your take on Drexciya, Dave? You still like it, or is it not?
I do. I love all the old electro style Detroit things. You know, I mean, well, electro going back, but I've got things like Dynamics too. I've got some mad stuff like that. But I love Drexciya, and I've got pretty much every single early release of theirs on Underground Resistance, some Submerge records. Some rare things as well. I mean, they used to press all these records at NSC pressing plant, and they were very creative there with the way they did things. So there's some records that played inside out, other records where there were two tracks on one side. Depending on where you put the needle, it would play one or the other, and you had to sort of change it.
Yeah. Crazy stuff, right?
But Drexciya, all that stuff. I've got all the coloured vinyl versions.
Okay.
There's the
nice.
And they released a few things on the Warp, on Reflex, on Trésor, under different names. There's so many different names with them, and this one is amazing. Abstract 4.
Nice.
And there's a connection with Moody Man, because Moody Man is very close to Omar S. from Detroit. And Omar S. is featured on some tracks with some side projects of Drexciya. Let me see. Tell me if it works, if you can hear.
Just try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, hey, we tried.
Can you hear it?
Not yet. No, we hear nothing.
Okay.
If not,
still nothing.
No, yeah, here we go.
Science. Science.
Yep. Tell us about the record, Stunty. What are we listening to, and what makes this record special?
As I was saying, this is Electroids, which is Drexciya on Warp, doing, as you can hear, a perfect, a very cool Kraftwerk pastiche, you could say. And what's really cool is it's a double LP, and it's probably one of the top 3 most consistent albums on Warp, because there's 11 tracks, and almost every single one is a hit. It's insane.
A hit in your opinion, which is of course they did, but it wasn't such a successful album, wasn't it?
It's not that it was not successful, it's that I think maybe they were afraid or something, but they didn't do too many copies of it. It was very quickly a an elusive record. It was, and because it's a high concept record that they didn't spell it out. They didn't explain it was a high concept album. Plus, back then when it was released in '95, I believe, yeah, '95, I don't remember them promoting it as a Drexciya record. Kind of, you understood it.
Around that release, it was a bit. It was very under the radar. They just put it out, and then it was out there. No one really,
The only thing that gave it away is that when they did the 12-inch EP, they also did a Drexciya 12-inch EP that had the exact same design. So that was and that's one of the cool things about Warp. There's all this like cryptic.
And turn it down now, please. Yeah. I'm afraid for the algorithm. Sorry to be the. Yeah. Thank you.
Problem. No, there's always.
But it worked. By the way, it worked really, really good. We can do this here on this. Yeah. On this. That really worked good. Yeah, we can do that every now and then.
I'll quickly.
Hello, Peter. So you didn't make it today. No problem. Next one. Thank you, Dave.
So yeah, like I think it's a very nice dimension with Warp, that all with the artwork, the artist, most of the artists, as you all realize, Aphex Twin is very cryptic in his communication. So is Audiophile. LFO, which is for me the biggest, the most important band of it all, was also quite secretive. Even with Black Dog, with all these things about Egyptian mythology, which goes hand in hand with Drexciya, as Drexciya were supposed to be a race of black slaves that escaped and found their own Atlantis, and like a race of fishmen, black fishmen, whatever. Like there's a lot of dystopian thing that you can trace back to the early days of Detroit, in the sense that for me Detroit music is the music of the Terminator, of Skynet. Okay. And actually I think it's Juan Atkins or Jeff Mills who did like an album called Skynet. It's basically, we're black people, we're in this ultra urban environment where people make us work, in chain almost, and we are being hunted down by the police. So we need to escape, which is why I think a lot of this music is using so much sci-fi imagery in a very romantic way. This is why I used the word romantic earlier. Whereas with Chicago was more self-affirming music, much more grounded in sex and power of the sex. Like, here I am, I'm hard, fuck you. Whereas Detroit is like, ooh, fuck you, I'm gone. What would you think, Dave?
Let's change the topic a little bit, because I really love this question from Manuel Gocho. And this goes, why don't Warp reissue the LFO album?
They did.
Wait. I just want to put up this question, and get back to Dave in this occasion, and we go around with this question. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but I think that the Warp label originals, if you like this music, are records that you should hunt down nowadays. If you see a Warp original, how do we say in the OBC? What do we say? If you see one, buy it. Do you agree? I think Warp label originals.
I'll tell you something, you don't see them around so much these days in the UK.
Absolutely.
Not out in the field at all.
Absolutely.
They're hard to come by now.
Thomas, what's your take on the Warp label? If you see an original, do you get it?
Yeah, I always buy it.
Yeah.
You can still get them at okay prices. It's not everything expensive, but if I see it, I buy it. But you don't see them that often anymore.
I remember how hard it was for me to get those damn boards of Canada. We talked before we started the show, because you had them. They are not that rare, but outside they are so rare. It took me so long to get those. I mean, Stunty is on a different track probably, because he has all of them, and so he's not on the hunt anymore, right?
I have, I think I have every single one I want, at least.
Yeah.
This one, which is in my opinion the best album of electronic dance music ever, It was released as a single LP with 12 tracks. On CD with 14.
One second. Let's stay to the topic. Please answer the question and then go on as long as you like.
Oh yeah.
Would you also recommend for a collector to get to the Warp label and collect those originals?
So I will put it that way. For people who have been into that heavily throughout the years, when this music started to be labeled as IDM, by 2005, a lot of people like me felt like, okay, this music is kind of over. And these records that were basically very, if you think about the beginning of eBay and also Discogs exists almost because of Warp and that kind of music. That was the main motivation of the people who created all of that.
True.
So these records were starting to be very expensive in 98 up to 2003, 4, and then they went down. My friends who released on Warp and on other labels who we talk about that, they tell me now in the past 5 years, there's new generations of kids who are looking for these old records, which was very surprising to us because I can date them. I know, apart from a few of them, sometimes the music can be timeless, but the production isn't. But they don't care, which is why I think, yes, if you are interested and curious about it, absolutely, get them now. And as Michael has told me privately, he made some comparison between the reissues and the original, and he saw huge differences between them.
Yes, which is a huge surprise to me. I wouldn't have expected the originals to be better than the reissues, but for whatever reasons, they are.
The same reason as the usual. Like most of these records had masters done on tape, and the tape deteriorates. It's so.
But you get the point, Santi, because they are not that old and they are digital product. I was totally surprised.
7-year-old tape will have a loss that everyone can hear.
Santi, I think a lot of those early Warp, they would have been done on DAT tapes, digital tape, right? So
but the DAT tape is still a tape.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm just curious because I'm thinking the digital might degrade, obviously. And I mean, I know that there's some some of those early colored vinyls have a bit of a reputation for having a high noise floor on the pressings, but it comes with the territory a bit. People want the black ones. It doesn't. Hey, I love those old records anyway. I don't.
Let me indulge you with something. I have to show you a record then, but I have to find it.
Thomas, are you preparing music?
I can always play some music.
Play something. Come.
So in the US.
No, wait.
Okay, sorry.
We'll just make a little break for a little music, and then you. Flying Lotus, okay.
The nephew of Alice Coltrane.
Is he?
Yeah. His first album was on Plug Research, an IDM label from San Francisco.
Nice information. Thank you. A nephew means he's the son of. No, that was.
It means that he's the son of the brother of Alice Coltrane.
The brother of.
Alice.
Okay. We are still on the Warp label, right?
Yeah. But if we talk about Flying Lotus, we have to talk about how Flying Lotus ended up on Warp, which is also a very important shift in pop music, and an artist that is, in my opinion, as important as Boards of Canada, and it's Prefuse 73. Like, that was a game changer for Warp. That's when Warp really embraced hip hop in a very creative way that hip hop didn't have. Like, really, Warp was innovative within the hip hop world and not like the fringe hip hop world, because this brought up like big rappers such as Del, Damn Funky Homo Sapien. And for those who like Gorillaz, Prefuse 73 is the guy who should have done Gorillaz, but he actually declined and advised them to take the person who actually did the beats for Gorillaz. But
Santi, no, okay, well, sorry, don't want to interrupt.
That goes back to, if we talk about LFO, like, and quickly, Manuel, who wanted a reissue of LFO, like, they reissued the first one as a double LP featuring the 2 tracks that was only on the CD, and it sounds amazing. I understand that it has now gone up in price, the reissue as well, but
Santi, is this the original you have there?
This is the original, and this is the reissue with the complete track listing, not the 2 missing tracks, which is why I have both.
Do you do us a favor and please play your favorite song from the original, please?
All right. Ooh. But before that,
take the original, please.
I'll take the original for sure. Warp in the early days in the US was distributed by Tommy Boy, and Tommy Boy is a hip hop label.
Hip hop label, right?
So this is the US version of the first LFO, Love Is the Message.
Nice.
And what's interesting is that LFO in the US in the early 90s was used by car dealers to showcase how the sound system in the cars was effective, because that was the most bass-heavy music you could find back then. So it was like you had commercials on TV in the US featuring LFO music for cars, just to show that this is the music of the future, but this is also the best music to play in your car.
In your car, okay. While Stanti is preparing, Dave, one question.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Warp label, at least in my case, it is the case. How is it with you? I think at a certain point, the Warp label wasn't Warp anymore. Do you agree or don't you?
What do you mean from where it was in the beginning to where it branched out into all different styles? I mean, if you go back to the very, I look back at some of the early records. I've just got to show a few of these because there was sort of a classic cover design. Yeah, a lot of house music out, right? Rhythm Invention.
Rhythm Invention, who went on to do some production for Björk, by the way.
See? All the stylings of these early, this is early Warp, THK France.
So they used a generic jacket for those 12 inches at that time.
But a lot. This is Warp for me. This is Warp. This era of this early stuff.
This is Warp, exactly. Are those on clear vinyl or am I?
No, it's the inner sleeves. But like on Dave's, Michael, important. Like on Dave's screen, it looks kind of bluish, but it's a purple.
Purple, it's purple.
And
okay.
But there's a story behind that purple that is interesting. Is that when they hired Designer Republic to do all their artwork, they commissioned them to create a color. So that color is unique to Warp. They actually created a very specific shade of purple that became.
And now comes Dave with his camera and destroys all the marketing and all the CI of Warp.
I can see them perfectly here. You can look up the Pantone reference online, Michael.
But I mean, which other label?
Stanti, stop talking. Put on the record. So, Thomas, that means that maybe today you have seen some records you want to get and you don't have, right?
Yeah, I see that every day.
You see that? I guess I know the feeling. Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
And this morning I got offered a Sunra that I don't have, and that's
you showed me on your cell phone. Ooh, that was a beauty.
In a near-mint copy. You never see that.
Do it. You know, listen to Dave. I laugh when he says, "If you see it, Thomas, get it."
Yeah, but
the next time you see it, hey, it could be 10 years down the line, and we're all going to be in a different place then, right?
I've never seen it before. So it might be 57 years before I see it again.
Okay. So that sounds optimistic, Thomas. So that sounds but I think Stunty is ready for us, and he has put.
I just wanted to specify about your question, Michael, about is warp still warp? So Joe DiCarlo there, he points out that Rob Mitchell passed away in 2001. What happened also, worth to note, is that his nephew was working there as an intern, and then they gave him the job of running Little Big, which is a booking agency for warp artists. But now it's become much bigger. It's basically the biggest booking agency for any independent artist in the world right now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. And that is a bigger business than Warp Music is currently.
So we should mention Warp Films as well, and the films that they did.
Films, documentaries. Yeah.
Chris Morris, like Blue Jam and the remix using Warp Music for that. Yeah, and it's just so important. Warp Films as well. They branched out into a whole creative world.
Yeah, what was the name of that movie? Britain something little.
There was the four.
Little Britain was comedy stunt. You're mistaken.
No, not Little Britain, but something about hooligans and punks in Britain. It was like a big movie festival prize award winner. Shane Meadows is the director.
Is it made in? I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The names, but yeah, it's like Made in Britain or something. It had oh God, what?
But basically, Warp at one point they started to have some like indie bands that were trying to be Franz Ferdinand and hip hop bands, and now they have basically they kind of instead of outside of the legacy artists on Warp, I would say that the last big discovery of Warp was Flying Lotus, which was 15 years ago. So that tells you a little bit of an answer. But let me try to play this, which is probably my favorite LFO song.
That's nice. Thank you, Santi.
I need to clean this a little bit, but you can hear like the melody is just insane.
As well.
I just wanted to say this copy is not from the OBC.
No, I haven't played it for some time now.
Right.
This is 91.
Yeah, and that is something you should never ever forget. You should never forget the technical limitations the way they had and what they got out of it. This is unbelievable. Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
Well, I have this reissue that sounds fantastic. That has the complete. I basically keep that as an artifact, and I bought it. Long before the reissue, of course. So, but that album I bought it in '92, and since then, yeah.
You bought it when it came out, and you listened to it.
A year later.
Yes.
And because '92 is really when I started to buy electronic music. I'm aware of it before, but I'm afraid of it.
Stunty, that's exactly the same for me.
Yeah. Well, Dave
and
I are. Yeah, we're the same age.
92. When I started really buying it, you know, and getting into it properly.
I mean, I was listening to it, but I wasn't buying it because I didn't have the means. I was buying indie rock and other stuff, and that would be a whole other budget to add to like a 14, 15-year-old kid. So it doesn't work. Yeah. This is England.
This is England. Thanks, Jay News. Yeah. I'll say this is England.
Really? Only 99. We had 1,000 spectators so far. Only 19 thumbs up.
That will change.
Yeah, you know, I never asked for thumbs up.
Yeah.
I think that's...
There's a compilation that Warp did for their 10-year anniversary. They did 3 compilations. One which was a compilation of the best of Warp, one which was a compilation of the influences of Warp, and one which was Warp artists remixing themselves or guests. And the guests, one of the guests is my favorite indie band, Pram, remixing this track. And Rob Mitchell, the founder of Warp, said on the record in the book, not Rob Mitchell, the other guy, said that is the one track he's the most proud of everything he's released in the book that Dave and I showed. One thing, maybe if for those who have visited Paris, you know, everyone knows the Arch of Triumph, right?
Yeah.
In front of the Arch of Triumph, at the far end of the other side of the Champs-Élysées, there's the La Défense Arch, which is a building that is an arch, but a very modern building. And in 91 or 2, LFO did a live there that is legendary, where it was basically on there in the street there. They did a free live show, a rave, where LFO performed live. There's a CD of this with the live version of it, plus one track that is exclusive to that he had never performed, that was never released. And that CD was given away for free, basically in the equivalent of the Guardian, a daily newspaper in France, which was very instrumental for the growth of rave culture in France.
Stumpy, talking about France, I think we should give a nod to, I noticed it was mentioned in the comments, F Communications and Fnac, those labels, Laurent Garnier, you know, very important as well, right? Deep Side, I love the Deep Side record.
Dave,
well,
Dave, now that we have done a relatively deep dive into the Warp label, is this video over now? Or is there something we should still discuss?
Do you know, I think we've opened a big can of worms.
Yeah.
Which we can revisit and talk more about this, because when you start to look at it like we've done, and you know, we've touched on Chicago, we've touched on Detroit, but literally when I say touched, I mean just touched the surface lightly. Yeah. Because we know how deep that goes. And it's deep. Yeah. We covered.
So we too will cover this again on our Sunday streams, I can imagine.
I think we're going to go. I feel wanting, Michael. I feel in need to do some stuff. Yeah. So we will do that.
Thomas, what's your take? Where would you love to get us now that we have touched the Warp label, that we have listened to some of the Warp label? Is there stuff you would love to share with us?
Next time, I'll just show some brand new from last year, some of the Warp labels. This one I really like. This is a jazz record.
Cool cover.
Then there's an artist,
Yves Tumor,
that I really like.
Yeah.
His first release here is not on Warp, but he did 3 other records. They're all on Warp. And
I think if Tumor, I say Tumor. That was quite a big thing when he came to Warp, right? And I'm not so convinced so far. Maybe. One second, sorry. 1 second. Can you play a little bit of it? Let's get a little bit into it. I just take Stunty and want to hear his take, and then we listen to him. What do you think about Yves Tumor?
So it's interesting because Yves Tumor's first record was released on Pan, which is a very experimental,
amazing label. Amazing label.
The guy who runs it as a fashion designer almost of avant-garde experimental music. I think that the problem we have with Warp right now, people like Dave and me, is that Warp is trying to be mainstream and Pan, and neither is them. They try
and you cannot do it. You cannot have it both, in my opinion. You just cannot have it. You have to make a decision. And that's what makes Pan a very cool label, and Warp a label that is on the lookout, on the search for something they should become.
But you know what? If you really are into the old ethos of Warp, you have Planet Mu, which is Mike Paradina's music's label, who has a catalog of over 400 LPs now in 30 years or in 25 years, going in all directions of electronic dance music, experimental electronic music. And it's still Mike Paradinas did an album called Mike and Rich with Richard James.
That name on the front, amazing cover.
So he has released, I think he might have released a Tuscan Raider EP on Warp or something, but he was very Warp adjacent. He never released an album on Warp, but if you were into Warp, you were into his stuff.
Hold your thought, Santi. We go back to you. Before we now get to Thomas and listen to the music, I just wanted to answer, where is the question? Michael, when do those videos go live? You probably mean the Sunday videos with Dave. We do those for the OBC members on Sundays at 6 p.m. my time. But when we have done those, we just do them live on my channel. So around 7, 8 o'clock European PM time, they are live. Otherwise, they're only for OBC members. And now we go to Thomas and listen to Yves Tumor, and then we go on. We'll do that one second. Okay, no, it's back. Yeah, this is Yves Tumor, Santi. Sorry, in a way I interrupted you. No,
not really. But like, for example, this music, it's very nice. It's very progressive. I don't think that when this comes out about 10 years ago, this is as radical as when Aphex releases music.
That's the point, exactly. Or Audiophile when they did it.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. Dave?
I'd agree. I mean, but the thing is, where is the radical now? It feels it's a very we're in a different place at the moment, and we're all craving that sort of mass sort of creativity. There was a huge amount of creativity at the start of Warp, at the start of the 90s, and where do we go from them? Where's going to be the next huge creative surge? But I'm with Stunty on this. Yeah.
I have usually this take that I think will be telling for Dave, for all of us. If you think about the labels, the indie labels that we consider classic, usually we say Factory, 4AD. All these labels only had like maybe 10, 15 years. Warp is still
only Stunty, sorry, but that's not only. At least they have their 15 years. There are not many labels that had their 15 years.
There are quite a few, and that's my point.
Yeah, there are quite a few, but consider how many labels there are out there.
I'm just saying that if we put like like 4AD and Factory on the same barometer as Warp, it's not even a contest. Warp is by leagues a much more influential label for society, for music, for inspiring other musicians, and we never give them credit for that because the rock critic bias makes it forget a little bit about that. And for me, I would say that the only label that is equivalent to Warp in history is Virgin. Warp is the new Virgin because Virgin started as an independent label that embraced music from outside, gave their own perspective about it, and went on. They branched out to do more than music, the same as with Warp. Warp is not on the same level, of course, as Virgin, but it's a label that has history.
A long time ago, in one of our numerous streams, you said something very intelligent, and I loved it. And you said that Warped, in a way, was the last music label that has his own character for a certain amount of time. And that goes for 4AD, in my opinion, too. But that's quite something very, very, very special. Warp had an own character, and it is so far the last label that had that.
If you think about it, and I love 4AD and Factory, and you could say the same about some of the bands, but if you think about it, Aphex Twin, Audiophile, Boards of Canada, Played, Prefuse 73, Broadcast, all these bands.
For Sean. But not here in Europe, Sean. It's different.
A little bit, but not as much. But all these bands I just named could be, the name of the band could be a genre in itself. There are bands who say, I do Audiophile, I do Aphex Twin, I do Boards of Canada. How many labels have that many artists that their own identity has become a genre in itself?
Yeah.
Dave, if you disagree, speak now.
I'm thinking if in 30 years from now we did this again, hopefully we're all still here, and we look at Warp again, I think even more we'll be looking back at that as one of the legendary labels of the 20th century.
For sure.
Right? That's what I think we'll be able to do that. In that, we'll look back again 20 years, 30 years, and we're going, that was very special.
And then again, this raises an interesting question. 20th century label or 21st century label? More a 20th century label, right?
I thought that, and then
a little bit more, but in a way both, right?
It is both. It straddles.
It paved the road to the 21st century music.
It's that first decade. I think it's that first decade.
And if we do that in 10 or 15 years, then I'll be rich because I kept all the promo items, the sticker.
No, you are not. Dave will be rich because he will buy them from you now.
I love it. He's getting all the cards down now, the postcards, the stickers. Like in fact, Stunty, I was down one of my vault, and I saw some Aphex Twin stickers in a box. I hadn't even opened for 20 years. Opened it, and there's a little pile of Aphex Twin stickers at the top, and they must be from 25 years ago. So I can't. I love that.
He is for sure, Muse. He is for sure. There is no doubt. Nobody does that. Oh, wait.
Look at that.
Come on, you cunts. Let's love some.
Don't say that on my stream, Stunty. You get me into trouble.
Sorry.
This is brilliant. This is the best. I love you, Stunty.
Oh, look at this one.
But we have
Stunty. The Balls of Canada one will be lovely. Look, that's like a car sticker, right? Look at that. Someone would rob your car to have that sticker, right?
Yes. No, wait. This is important. No, I think we should honor the wordplay of a German, and I really like it. Who invented Warped Records? Warp.
We love you, my friend.
I really like it. Yeah.
But yeah, we didn't even mention that much. I just mentioned Broadcast, which is a highly influential label band as well that exists mostly because of one thing that happened with Warp, I guess, also is that originally they only had their own artist, or most of the time. But then they started to get artists right after one album or one record. Boards of Canada. Is Boards of Canada a Warp artist or is it a scam? For me, it will always be a scam artist. But Aphex Twin, Audiophile, and Played, and LFO, even if they started elsewhere, whatever, they are the quintessential.
Yeah, but they've found a home for a certain reason, and I think you have to honor that, Stunty.
Oh,
I think
money played a part.
Yeah, of course. I mean, hey,
yeah,
they have to eat.
Yeah.
And they have to have record shelves that stand and hold their records and don't collapse.
Yeah.
So, who can blame them?
Oh no, I'm not blaming. I'm just saying that like Boards of Canada is, and you know what? They don't do that many shows. That
they played Lighthouse Party, the Lighthouse Party in London.
I was there. Yeah.
So was I.
Yeah.
So you have been at the same place at the same time.
It was in December 2000 or 2000, right?
2001, I think it was. Yeah,
2001.
2000, early 2000. But that Lighthouse Party in London they played live there.
Insane.
And so played, and that was an unbelievable party. There's some pictures of it online. Actually, someone had some photos.
I have 70 minutes of field recordings of it, Dave.
Do you?
Yeah.
That's the question. I just wanted to ask you. I just wanted to ask this on the panel, exactly this news, because Thomas and me, we discussed this. We discussed it pre-show. How are the chances for a new Boards of Canada album?
Could be.
Dave.
Oh, they'll come because they're tomorrow's harvest, right? And there'll definitely be another Balls of Canada, and I think there's a lot of people crying out they want to see a mad live show. It'd be great to see Balls of Canada live, and there's a lot of demand, out there. So hey,
Stunty. Boards of Canada new album?
Could be. I mean, they are the master of their own destiny in the sense, as I said, like you could expect kind of regularly new records from the legacy bands on Warp, not from Boards of Canada. I think Boards of Canada are very isolated in a positive way. They're just completely like indifferent from what I mean. They probably don't have any money problems, and they're probably very simple guys.
Oh, Stunty, you think they are that big? From those albums nowadays, they have such a reputation.
I think these albums have sold and licensed so much in the world that their grandchildren will be well off.
Okay, wow, that's interesting. Are they that big?
Yeah, they've got.
They are that big. They are that big now. Because Thomas, remember what we said? I think if Boards of Canada will put out a new album this year, next year, whenever, it will be the most sold Boards of Canada album within 2 hours. I'm sure.
If it's good.
No, Stunty. No. It doesn't have to be the best one.
Yeah. There's one Boards of Canada album that I don't like, actually. The third one, I think, is a very mediocre Beatles album. I know people are going to hate me for that, but it's I think the two first ones are amazing.
Yeah.
The last one has a bunch of good enough songs that it's worth having. But honestly,
but Stunty, we are sometimes, and you too, are a little bit unfair, because when it comes to Boards of Canada, we expect so much that the weakest album from Boards of Canada put out by another band would be a triumph. Think about that.
Absolutely, but the thing is that I don't want to be a fan of anything apart from Audiophile. So
Yeah, but that's your private choice.
Yeah. No, but I mean, as much as I love Boars of
Oh, they must have been listening.
Yeah, exactly. I just was hesitating. Is it me or is it Stunty? But he's back now. Okay.
Cool.
Okay, yeah. I was saying, as much as I had like a personal history and connection with them, this year there's been an album out by a band called Somni that I think is very Boars of Canada-ish in many ways, and is much better than anything they've done in the past 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, and you say that sometimes, and then I listen, I said, why is this Boars of Canada? And then I need 1 hour of you, and then I need 1 hour of your time to explain to me why this is Boars of Canada.
In this case, I don't think we had that conversation yet.
Okay.
But it's not completely unfair. I would agree.
Okay. Thomas, have you prepared a last song for us?
Yeah, I have a last song if you want last song. It's I don't have this record as original. I had it in my hand once, but I think it's a little bit fun to finish with because a lot of people say that this is the first house record ever.
Thomas, can I ask you a quick question? You said you had it in your hand.
Yeah.
What happened? What you had it in your hand. So what did you do? Did you put it back?
No, he didn't want to sell it for.
Okay.
I would say, Thomas, that many people, and myself included, we consider the first house music record is actually a bootleg, and it's on and on, with the looped. I'm sorry, I'm really bad at that, but it's from '83, I think, and it's not super expensive or difficult to find because it's good, but it's more historical than great.
Yeah.
So let's hear what Thomas' take on this.
I'll say a little bit. You can say something to it.
Charanjit, India. He's in India now.
Oh, you got that? That's rare.
That's rare.
You see, you heard how fast it went, Michael?
That was brilliant. That was a classical moment. I love that moment. Oh, Santi immediately recognized the record and that's rare.
No, it's Charanjit Singh. I say directly.
Yeah. They've got a great cover surrounded by Rosen gear, right? I'll shut up, don't worry.
And Stefan says he mentioned this earlier.
All right. It's an Indian record from '83, I believe.
And 82. It's amazing.
82,
and it's amazing so far.
The friend of mine who found it and reissued it, De Chéri, a French guy, very humble guy, very nice guy, and they did a reissue of that put that record on the map because it sounds like an Aphex Twin lost record.
It's brilliant. So, can you show the jacket, Thomas?
I didn't have an original, so just a reissue.
The reissue is worth a lot nowadays. It used to be cheap, but not anymore.
This is brilliant.
But if you had an original of that, it would not sound as good as this.
Okay, why?
Because it's like an African record plus.
That's the original cover inside the gatefold there. That's what the original cover looks like, that little picture. Yeah. It's so expensive though, it's thousands to get that now.
See, Joseph agrees with me with On and On, Jesse Saunders.
Can you give us some more volume on it, Thomas?
The on tracks, Michael, on this one, they are super fast as well. The tempo changes so much, like real techno. This one is more down tempo-ish, faster.
Okay. But what this guy who did this record, was he aware of what he's doing, Or
He
is
was
this a
taking
product of...
traditional Indian ragas, but using electronic equipment, but using the traditional styles of the music, but using TR-808, TB-303, TR-909, TR-606. Oh, taking those, I mean, listen to it. It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's amazing, isn't it? Okay, original goes for 6,000 euros.
And not necessarily in the best condition either.
No.
But you know, when this came out, this was like a huge thing, a huge discovery.
Okay.
Now, 10 years, 15 years later, I still find it super cool and fun. But it's not necessarily what people say it is. You couldn't play this in a club. It wouldn't work.
It got very hyped at the time, it's safe to say, Stunty, right?
Yeah. It's a fun abnormality in a way that is very cool. Is it great? Absolutely the greatest thing? Not necessarily, but it doesn't need to be. It's really cool.
Exactly.
I wanted to add before my battery dies that if you're really into the whole warp thing and like you want to learn the context of how warp was built, and not necessarily warp but that music and that culture, this book is amazing.
Okay.
Wow.
Is it still available, or do you have to get it on the secondary market?
No, it's still available and you can find it digitally as well. It's only from a few years back, and it's from a guy who really researched it in Sheffield and the Sheffield music connection. There was even a couple of compilation of records curated by him and by Robert Gordon from the Forge Masters around it. And I didn't learn a lot, but I can vouch that it's pretty comprehensive. Dave would love it.
Yeah, no, Stunty, that looks brilliant. It's right up my street.
Someone, I love that. Someone in Nepal told me about this record in 2010. And that's the comment of the month. I love it. Thanks, Stefan. Okay. We scratched the surface of house, warp, and electronic music. I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope you all loved it. Thank you, Thomas, for putting on all those beautiful records. Thank you, Dave, for being again with us. Stunty, thank you so much. And it was amazing that you also are able to put on some records. And I think we will get back into this feature. That really was cool. And yeah, and I all have to thank you for joining, for participating. As I can see on the numbers, these kind of streams get more and more popular. I know this is new, and new things in the VC are always dangerous and strange, but we will go on with those. And I really love doing these. This is the favorite day of the week for me when I do these streams with Thomas, Dave, Nadine, Peter, Stunty. I really love doing this, and I hope you enjoy this as much as me. See you on the next one. Bye. Thank you.